Right now, I'm joined in studio by Reid Locklin, an associate professor of Christianity and culture at the University of Toronto, St. Michael's College. Reid, good evening. Thank you very much for taking time to speak with us. So this is a big day, the 267th Pope. First off, your reaction to an American, the first American.
Well, I was shocked. I mean, I was shocked at multiple levels. First of all, I was shocked that they reached a decision so quickly. And then I was shocked. I think that I've told many people you make predictions, and I've been saying I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it won't be an American. Okay. And then here we go.
So let's talk about this. The second day of the conclave. This comes after the fourth vote. Mm-hmm. Historically, where does that line up?
Well, I mean, so I don't want to speak across the whole span of the time because it's changed a lot. But in the last decade, the last century or so, this would be a fast conclave, right? So Benedict XVI, who was sort of a front runner and was sort of expected, very likely to be elected, although nothing's ever certain, he was also elected on the fourth ballot. So it really speaks to the fact that this group of cardinal electors started from zero and accelerated to 100 kilometers an hour very quickly and came to consensus very fast.
Okay, so Reid, let's put this in a perspective. You know, religion is very important for a lot of people. It can be contentious for a lot of people. How important, why is this important, especially for those who are not Catholic?
Right. Well, I mean, one can offer sort of a very concrete reason for that. So the Catholic Church is big, right? 1.4 billion people, growing in many parts of the world, not in Canada, but in many parts of the world. And in addition to just there being a lot of Catholics, there are a lot of Catholic institutions. I work in India. I work with in Hindu Catholic dialogue. And when I was living in India, I knew many Hindus. Many of them had gone to Catholic schools, right? So I think that the footprint of Catholicism is bigger than just Catholics. And then, so that's sort of a practical reason. And then, but I think also symbolically, there's, the Catholic Church is unusual in that it has this face. Right? So even though the Catholic Church is big, even though it's many different people, it always has a human face, and that is the face of the Pope. This is the reason why the Truth and Reconciliation Commission asked that the Pope come to Canada and make an apology on behalf of the Church here, was because the face of the Church in Canada was the face of the Pope. And so I think that human face is symbolically important. I mean, as an actor in the world for many people.
And, with that, with respect to truth and reconciliation, we saw that with Pope Francis. And with that, 108 of the 133 cardinals, they were appointed by Pope Francis, making this the largest conclave in history. So let's talk about that relationship to the newest Pope, number 267, Leo.
In terms of questions of Indigenous reconciliation, or
just the entire, connection here, the Indigenous aspect, also the effect, the relationship of Francis and the number of cardinals that we have.
For sure. So, I mean, so a couple different levels. So the first one is that the fact that Pope Francis appointed so many of the cardinals meant that it was likely that they would elect somebody who sort of understood themselves as bringing forward Francis's legacy. As far as we can tell so far, we don't have a lot of information to go on yet, but the Urbi et Orbi address that Pope Leo gave certainly suggested that. He spoke of peace, he spoke of reconciliation, he spoke of reaching to those who are suffering. He spoke of being a synodal church, which was a priority for Francis. But in terms of the global reach of the church, his pastoral work was all in Peru. And so people are talking about him as an American pope. But I think in Peru, he's a citizen of Peru. I think in Peru, they're celebrating him as a Peruvian pope. And so he has connections with many peoples in many parts of the world.
Yeah, he addressed the crowd in Italian and Spanish. Let's talk about what is known about Robert Prevost. So we have to talk about, in terms of choosing the name, Leo.
Right.
Let's talk about the history of that?
Well, I'm super excited about that in a very nerdy way, right? I'm a professor. And so when I heard that he'd chosen the name Leo, I was actually really excited and touched. And I thought of two Leos. Now we know that the Vatican Press Office has released a statement that he really is thinking of Leo XIII, who's the most recent Leo in the late 19th century. But I, of course, thought of Leo I, right? Leo the Great, who's a great 5th century pope, one of the early popes, one of the people who advanced the idea of a papacy itself. And who was really well known for sort of his interventions in doctrine, but also a political figure. He went outside of Rome and negotiated with Attila the Hun to prevent him from invading Italy, so very much a person of the world. And Pope Leo XIII, similarly, he's credited, he has an encyclical Rerum Novarum from 1891, which is seen as the beginning of what's called the Catholic social teaching. Now, the church has always had moral teaching, but the Catholic social teaching is sort of addressing the conditions of the modern world, and especially industrialization. It was the first place where the Catholic Church said unions are good. It was the first place where the Catholic Church said maybe it's okay to participate in democracies. Seems unusual now, but that was what Leo XIII did. And so he was very much a pope who was addressing the world. And I think we expect that from this Leo as well.
And along with that, different from Francis, who was Jesuit, we're talking about the Order of Augustine now. Talk about the main differences there.
Right. So the Order of St. Augustine is a mendicant order. They're friars, like Franciscans or Dominicans. Their charism is love and learning, right? They're inspired by the image of another 4th and 5th century figure, Augustine of Hippo, who I have a lot of affection for because I wrote my thesis on Augustine when I was doing my doctorate. And so I have a great love for this person because of his writing. But it's an order of the church that prioritizes apostolic work, so working with people in need. And also education. So they founded a number of universities. And in fact, Prevost went to an American Augustinian university, Villanova University. And so I'm sure the folks at Villanova are very happy about that.
And as we wrap up, I know this is all very early. What are you expecting, as someone who has studied this, what are you expecting from his papacy?
I mean, I think that I'm expecting, so some people were wondering whether there would be a reaction to Francis in the next pope. But I think what we're going to get is a refinement of Francis in this pope. I think probably people looked at him as somebody who embodies that vision of the field hospital, of going to people in need, of being present to people, of mercy. And as an Augustinian, of grace, which is really at the center of the Augustinian charism. But to do so maybe in a way that's a little more predictable. I suspect that he'll be involved a bit in regularizing some of those initiatives that Francis made. And he has a reputation of being somebody who listens carefully and is very diplomatic and careful.
And setting the tone for the church globally. For
sure. Differently than Francis, but very much molded by Francis as well. Okay.
Final thoughts.
Sure.
In the last 30 seconds.
I'm excited. I think that, my spouse is from Chicago. And so we've already had popes always disappoint. And this pope has already disappointed a little bit. It turns out he's a White Sox fan.
All right. With that, bringing some levity to this, Reid Locklin, Associate Professor of Christianity and Culture at the University of Toronto, St. Michael's College. Thank you very much for your time and your insight.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.